Hey y'all, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to what's going to be a pretty big makeup decluttering video, the biggest on this channel ever, only because I've never done this before. I've never filmed one of these before. I definitely have gone through my collection and purged old products, purged infrequently used products, donated them, given to friends and family, things like that. This is the first time I've ever filmed it, so I wanted to show you. It's kind of a late to the New Year's or early spring cleaning. I'm not sure where that kind of falls, but it happened and so I filmed it. Let's get into it. Actually, no, before I get into it, I do want to say, I think I talk a little bit as I'm decluttering about donating versus giving to friends and family, and so I just wanted to explain a little bit. If you find yourself going through your collection and you have some gently used items that you bought, you didn't really like it, and so it just kind of sat there for a while, you can donate them. Unused products can go to Dress for Success. I think they exclusively accept unused makeup donations, but there is a place in Spokane, Washington called Project Beauty Share that accepts gently used products, some mostly powders. Like there are some things that they want to be unused, like cream products, liquid or cream, things like that, according to what I've read on the internet. But basically they accept those products that some, shelters or organizations might not, just because they are open. But as someone who regularly gets and tries and will maybe swatch a product once or use it 2 to 3 times and then need to move on to something else in order to talk about it or whatever, a lot of my stuff is gently used, and so it's amazing when an organization is able to take on products like that so they can actually do some good helping somebody else who might want or need them. The thing about Project Beauty Share is they do have drop-off locations locally, but I'm in Austin, Texas, so I will ship all of this to them. They do accept shipments. The address is on their website. Yeah, just for reference, if you find yourself in the same boat and have things that are eligible for donation as opposed to getting completely trashed, which I'm not gonna lie, I do have some like old cream products, old foundations that just are ultimately going to get tossed. That's an unfortunate side effect of this, but at least a good portion of things that I'm getting rid of get to be donated. So food for thought as you watch all of this. And I think that's it. I think we're good to go. So let's get into it because it's gonna be a long one. All right, so here we are starting with the foundations. I'm gonna start over here because it's closest to me. These, by the way, for those who might be wondering, are press-on nails from Impress as usual. I can't remember the pattern off the top of my head, but I will put it in the description bar below, so check that out if you're interested. Let's go ahead and dive in. Starting over here with some powder foundations. This one is the Mercier Smooth Finish Foundation Powder in the shade 03. This is supposed to be used both wet and dry, but I'm not sure if you can see there's kind of a little film here over top that's not supposed to be developed when you use it wet, but happened with this one. Bottom line is there are other powder foundations I like, namely the one I'm about to talk about from It Cosmetics, and it's also old, so it had its heyday in my collection but needs to be tossed. Next up is the one I just mentioned before. It's the It Cosmetics Celebration Foundation in Illumination. This is the shade Light, and basically I'm getting rid of this because you can see in here, or maybe you can't, I've made a solid dent in this. This and the one in the matte black case is my favorite powder foundation. And so I've gotten a lot of good out of this, but I have a brand new one of these, and at this point this one is at least 2, maybe 3 years old, so it needs to get tossed. Oh, but I do want to mention before I do, the difference between this one and the one in the matte black case is the matte black case has no shimmer, no illumination, whereas this one has a tiny hint of, not pearlescence, like it doesn't add color, even though this is kind of a pearlescent packaging. This just adds like a hint of glow. So if you're into powder foundation, you want beautiful full coverage, natural looking full coverage, but you want a little bit of a satiny glowy finish, this is the one you should reach for. Whereas if you want the matte finish, I would go for just the regular Celebration foundation. Next, let's hit up some NYC products. This is the Smooth Skin 2-in-1 Compact Foundation and Concealer. This didn't function well as either for me, foundation or concealer. I picked it up thinking, oh, this might be, one of those unsung drugstore heroes. Not so much. So this is getting tossed as well. Next up is this NYC BB Radiance Perfecting Powder, and I actually really like the coverage this gives. It has a really beautiful satin finish, radiance. I mean, it's not glowy dewy, but it definitely gives the skin a beautiful lit from within sort of radiance, as the name suggests, with some surprisingly good coverage for a powder. Like it's really more than a pressed like setting powder. It adds a level of coverage. The issue is it just wasn't the right color for me, and I feel like for a powder that has that kind of coverage, you really need something that better matches your skin tone, and so this one has to go as well. Now let's get into the Wet n Wild. This is the Coverall foundation. I have 2 tubes because I never really could find tubes that like perfectly matched my skin tone, so I would always mix them. Even though I loved the coverage, it's the best that Wet n Wild had. They've since come out with their Photo Focus foundation that I like more, but before that came out, I loved the matte finish, the full coverage of these, but I could never find the one that was the right shade for me. And at this point, these are a couple years old, and unfortunately they don't have a pump dispenser, so oxygen's been able to get in there. And so at this point, these have got to go as well. Now onto some pump foundations though. Here, let's just tackle all 3 of these together. This is because they're all Makeup Forever, this is the Water Blend. I have a review of this and it really did surprise me. It's a light, super light liquid foundation that's buildable. It's great for a natural finish, but I just don't find myself using it all that much because I prefer a full coverage. And so I finally just need to come to terms with the fact that I like full coverage foundations. I don't use light coverage foundations because I always find that I can mix a moisturizer in with a full coverage foundation to achieve the same effect. So this is going to go to a better home because I've used this a handful of times, so there's still a good amount of product to salvage out of that. And it does have a pump dispenser, so it is good to be donated. The Ultra HD foundation from Makeup Forever is a different story. This does not work for my skin. I have combo skin, and I know people, this is like a cult classic. It is not for me. It doesn't play nice with my skin. It develops excess shine and kind of feels like it sits on top of my skin. I much prefer the HD stick foundation instead. So both of these are getting donated as well. Now let's talk about this guy from Mally, the Ultimate Performance Face and Body Makeup. This is in the shade Light, and I used this once, maybe twice. The texture was so thick and moussey and did not blend out at all on my skin, and Light it was actually a little too deep for me, and so with all that combined, I just never ever wear it, so it is best sent to another home where it will get used. This is the e.l.f. Foundation Serum. I have a review of this as well when it first came out, and I liked how it performed on my skin. It's another one of those light coverage, weightless feeling, super liquidy foundations that just blend very naturally in with your skin. But again, just like the Makeup Forever Water Blend foundation, if I want a light coverage, I'll just mix some moisturizer in with my everyday foundation or my custom cover drops or something like that to achieve a light coverage. But it just occurs so infrequently that I never think to reach for this. Now let's talk about the True Match Lumi Cushion. This is in the shade N3.5, and it's too dark for me. It really only matches me a couple of weeks out of the year, honestly, and I find I need to like consistently bronze, self-tan, things like that to get it to match. And I like the formula well enough, but it's not my favorite, and so to keep it around, it's old enough at this point where I know I'm not using it, I'm not getting good out of it, and so it's just taking up space. So that will get tossed. This Covergirl Ready Set Gorgeous, I loved this in combination with the powder, but at this point the smell and consistency has changed, and so it's gotta go. The Jouer Luminizing Moisture Tint. This is beautiful, but again, more of a primer for me because the coverage is so light. It makes the skin glow beautifully, is great for me as kind of a priming moisturizer, but I just never find myself reaching for it. And it's been used all of like 2 times and isn't that old, so this is gonna go to a friend or family because it is open and it's been used 1, maybe 2 times. Same goes for this Boscia BB cream. I've used it less than a handful of times, and so it is open. It doesn't have a pump, but it's still a perfectly good product that should go to a loving home, so that's going to go to friends and family too. This is going to get donated. This honestly was a press sample from IT Cosmetics from one of the kits that they released on QVC, but I already had so many base products from IT Cosmetics open at the time that I never bothered to open it and like waste another product, so this is going to get donated. And then last is the Rimmel Lasting Finish 25-Hour Skin Perfecting Full Coverage Foundation. This I really liked, but it was hard for me to get a totally accurate read on wear because the shade isn't right for me. It's just too light, but it might fit my sister really well, so this is going to go to her. On to concealers. There aren't a whole lot here just because once I find one that I really like, I stay with it for a while, so unless I'm trying something brand new or it gets sent to me as a press sample, I'm just generally not trying a lot of new concealers. So first up is the Maybelline Master Conceal, and it just didn't give me enough coverage, so after trying it every which way and having it for probably longer than I should have, it has got to go. Next up is the Kat Von D Lock-It Tattoo Concealer, and I I liked it. I liked it well enough, but now that they have the Lock It cream concealer in the, like with the doe foot applicator, that is my absolute favorite. And so this, because it's less than a year old, will go to friends and family, but it's kind of wasted space in my collection, so it should go to someone who can get some good out of it. This one will get tossed as well. It's the Physicians Formula Nude Wear Touch of Glow Stick, and this it wasn't full coverage enough for me. It didn't flatter my skin texture all that well, especially like in the under eye area. It was best for all around spot coverage, but I definitely wouldn't say it's my favorite concealer. And the texture has only gotten, you know, drier and thicker with time, so this is out. And last is Boo Boo Cover Up. This is from probably an Ipsy bag. Not a whole lot of it has been used. It's a good enough concealer, but I wasn't crazy enough about it to keep using it, so I have used it. It's not a pump, so it's gonna go, and it's not old, so it's gonna go to friends and or family. On to setting powders. This includes both pressed and loose. First, let's talk about these Physicians Formula. They are so old. I had these when I first started making videos, so at this point they're what, like 5 years old probably. So they have got to go simply from an age standpoint. These are the Youthful Wear Cosmeceutical Youth Boosting Powders. One is in the translucent matte finish and one is in the translucent illuminating finish. I really liked these for adding coverage to my foundation as well as setting my foundation. The matte one in particular, this one is great at providing a beautiful satin finish to the skin. The shimmery one though is crazy shimmery. I definitely don't think, I mean, there's noticeable shimmer in here, and so I don't think if you have anyone who isn't a fan of like some serious glow and illumination would want anything to do with this. But both of these are old, so they need to go. Next, I want to talk about these two. These I got in subscription services. One is from a brand called Your Mineral Sweden. This is the transparent veil. One is from Be a Bombshell. It's the Smooth Criminal Powder. Neither of these have been opened because I had so many other loose powders floating around at the time that I just thought it'd be wasteful to open these, so these are going to get donated. Basically all except for the Ready Set Gorgeous Pressed Powder are powders that I talked about in the Battle of the Loose Setting Powders video, and some of them just straight up didn't work for me, like the By Terry Hyaluronic powder and the Jouer, what is this called? The Glistening Brightening Powder. These straight up did not work for me, but Project Beauty Share wants any loose mineral makeup to be new when it's donated, so this will go to friends and family because I've literally used them a handful of times. They just really did not work for me from the get-go. Then these are loose powders that I just found. I have translucent setting powders I prefer more to the Makeup Forever HD. Actually, this one is really old. I think I bought this 5 years ago-ish, so it's gotta get trashed. But there is this guy, there's the Mary Kay translucent setting powder, and this is the e.l.f. High Def Under Eye Setting Powder, which I still can't get it to work for me because it has shimmer. Even the new formula, I know a lot of you guys commented on that video that the new formula doesn't have the shimmer in it, but they recently sent me one that I had to cross-check against the two, and mine still did. So I really can't get that to work for me, and so these will all go to friends and family as well. And this powder, despite being much loved, is pretty old and has seen better days, so it is getting tossed as well. Now onto some blushes. Let's start with, oh god, here's a sad one, the Carmody Beauty, or Carmody & Company Beauty Products. This is the Carmondizing Highlighter in Ethereal, a good enough highlighter. The cool thing about it is it was a combo cream and powder in one. I really like that, but they no longer make these anymore because this has a cream in it. It can't be donated, so I'll definitely ask friends and family if they want it, knowing that it's kind of older, but if nothing, the powder side is really beautiful. Same goes for the blush. This is all powder though, so I'll donate this, but it's a beautiful enough blush, but because the brand itself has been discontinued, I don't think it really makes sense for me to keep them and talk about them, because that's just cruel. The same actually goes for these e.l.f. products. All of these blushes they no longer make. These are the pressed mineral blushes, and I have maybe swatched them once. Some of these have never been touched, and so all of these will get donated. As well, this actually is a mineral blush. This is the shade Bliss. They don't make these anymore, to my knowledge, unless they're coming back out with them, but they're not available on the e.l.f. site anymore. And so, unfortunately, it's been open, so I can't donate it, but there's a good amount of product in here, and I maybe used it a couple times, so I'll give this to friends and family. Up next is the Revlon Photo Ready this is just a cream blush in the shade Coral Reef. Again, this is something they don't make, and because it's a cream product, it's not something I want to, or I can donate, I don't think. So this is gonna go in the trash. And although they do still make the NYX cream blushes, these are so old. I think I bought them at IMATS, the first IMATS I ever went to when I first started making videos, so again, 4 to 5 years ago. And so as much as I love them, love the formula, especially Tickled, oh my goodness, it's a beautiful shimmery peachy pink. Same with Natural, this is a matte finish, but just such a beautiful, like truly natural looking dusty rose on my skin. They're very old and so they need to go. Next up, let's talk about the L'Oreal True Match Lumi Powder Glow Illuminators. I think these are all 3 of them. There might be one that I didn't get, but basically these couldn't hang with the level of glow that I want, and so they're perfectly fine powders. I think a lot of people would get good out of them, but I've used them, like I said, a handful of times since I've gotten them, and so they're so gently used, I think somebody else will get better good out of them than me, so these are going to be donated. This Spotlight Highlighter from City Color Cosmetics doesn't exist anymore, and it's a cream product that has been used, so sadly it has got to go, but because it's been used so little, I'm definitely going to check and see if anybody I know wants to take it before throwing it away. This guy is the Beauty Crop, or from the brand The Beauty Crop. It's a highlighter called Lightning Crew, one of the most beautiful, like rose goldy, incredibly shimmery champagne shades. Beautiful, but I probably prefer powder highlights, and so for as much as I liked wearing this, it's just not a format I regularly reach for, so it needs to go somewhere to someone who will, but because it's opened and a cream product, it's gonna be friends and family. This is the L'Oreal Visible Lift Blur Blush. This just isn't pigmented enough for me, and it's liquid, and again, not a format that I really regularly reach for, more so in the summer, but it just doesn't see enough use from me to justify keeping it when somebody else might like it, so it's very little used, but still has been open, so friends and family. This is a Nars Deep Throat sample. I think this might have come in a set from Sephora, or I can't really remember where I got it, honestly, but I don't use it enough to justify having it, and so because it's so gently used, it's going to go to a better home and get donated. Same with this sample Hot Mama blush from the Balm. This has actually never been used. It's one of those that I got in like a monthly subscription service, and because I actually have either the full size or have this shade in a palette somewhere, I just never touched it, so it's going to get donated as well. The CoverGirl True Blend Blush is just not one I find myself reaching for all that frequently. I'm not sure if it's because it has a hint of shimmer with it and I like to use more matte blushes and then layer shimmer on where I want it afterwards, but for whatever reason it's just not one I reach for, and so it belongs in a better home than mine. This is from the e.l.f. Beautifully Bare collection, and this is a shade that just didn't really show up on me. It's great for a healthy, like very slightly tinted dewy blush, but the color fades pretty quickly for me, and so it's just not getting any good from me, and it is open as a cream product, so I'll check and see if anyone wants that before tossing it. This is just a little ridiculous. It's the Super BB Insta Ready stick from Physicians Formula. It's one of those where you apply a strip down your face, then you take a brush and blend it out, and it's just, I don't know. It's one of those that I kind of bought into the gimmick thinking maybe it would actually work, and it just didn't, so I never find myself using it, and so there's basically the full stick here. I'll definitely see if anyone wants to use it. Here we have some face products. Not gonna say powders, because the first one I'm actually gonna talk about is a face, what is this called? Doesn't even say on the outside. But basically it is a face contour blush slash highlight palette from Laura Mercier, and it wasn't one that I was in love with. Despite having all these shades in it, I didn't find it to be terribly versatile. The colors kind of muddied together, and just generally it wasn't a palette, you know, all those things combined, wasn't a palette that I regularly reached for, and at this point it's almost a year old, so it's getting kind of gross looking. Next up is the Becca and Jacqueline Hill collab. They sent this to me shortly after the collection came out, but because it was sold out so quickly, I didn't feel like I could really use it in videos and stuff because you guys couldn't get your hands on it, and some of these shades, or in fact most of these shades, were limited to this collection. So this will get donated. This is the limited edition holiday blush palette from Smashbox, and again, because it was limited edition, I used it for about the week or two after I got it, but because you guys couldn't get your hands on it, it sold out pretty quickly. I stopped using it pretty quickly thereafter, and so that is going to get donated. This is the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Contour. I like the contour in here well enough. It's a nice, cool mid-tone contour that is kind of rare to come across in the drugstore, but I wasn't a huge fan of the highlight, and so because there are other single contours or contour highlight palettes out there that I like better. I just never reached for this, and so it didn't get used a ton, so it's gonna get donated. The Ulta Contour Kit. This is a great little kit, but I did a duper dud on how this compares to the nearly identical looking It Cosmetics Contour Kit, and it's basically a dupe. The radiance, I mean, the highlighters are a little different, but for all practical purposes, the kit itself creates a very similar look. As a result, I use the It Cosmetics when I reach for something like this and haven't touched the Ulta kit so much since I got it, so this is gonna get donated. And then the Cocoa Contour, again, I kind of went contour, back when contouring and highlighting first came out, I went a little contour kit crazy, and so I have quite a few of these, and once I got some others in my collection, this one kind of fell by the wayside, so I do need to clean this brush before donating it, but this will get donated because it didn't get a whole lot of use. Alright, we're moving on to eyes. These are kind of the big palettes first, and honestly, all of these are either limited edition or they have been discontinued, and they've just seen such little use. I mean, this is the Urban Decay Full Spectrum palette. It is such a fun rainbow palette. I used it to create a rainbow Lisa Frank cheetah for Halloween, but because it's limited edition and is now being phased out, I don't feel like it's something I want to talk about on the channel knowing you guys can't get it. The same is true for all of these. Like, this isn't completely sold out, but it's on sale, and so I think it's on its way out. Same with the cat eyes. The Becca Jacqueline Hill palette like sold out the second it was launched. The Starlooks palette is discontinued. This Paula's Choice is limited edition. And then this Mally has also been discontinued as well. And so all of these have been used so minimally that I'm really excited that these get to find a new home with somebody else. More eyeshadows. These are smaller palettes and quads. First, let's start with these from Milani. These are the Milani Fierce Foil Eye Shines. I don't even know if these are still available, but they crease like crazy. You kind of have to use them very carefully to make sure that they stay in place all day. There are just better glitters that exist out there, even at this kind of price point, so these have got to go, and because they're cream products, they gotta be tossed. This is a brand new eyeshadow palette. It's the Clay eyeshadow palette in Necessary Nudes, and e.l.f. sent this to me. They also sent me another one though, so it's a duplicate, so I didn't even bother opening it. That's gonna get donated. These are discontinued Kardashian eyeshadow palettes, the Touch Tones Gradient Eye Color sets. This one is in kind of a natural looking, what is it called? Mirage, and this one is in Echo. I liked both of them well enough, but again, because, you know, I'll use them and you guys will be like, great, what's a dupe? I can't, you know, I'd rather just use something that you guys can all find, so these are gonna get donated. And then these eyeshadow palettes, all of these are from L'Oreal. These are some of their new ones. They've been unopened because they were duplicated. I bought some, and then L'Oreal sent me some, and so these I didn't bother to open because I already had. And then these are even older palettes that, correct me if I'm wrong, do you guys feel like these launched and then were taken out right away, or did time fly for me? Because I feel like I bought these and then next thing you knew, these were already out. So I didn't really have a chance to use these all that much. They're great neutral everyday eye quads, so these are going to get donated. And then this is a quad from Eddie Funkhauser. Has these beautiful greens like deep emerald and foresty kind of green with some everyday neutrals. Again, not something that I reach for on the regular, and so it is getting donated as well. And last are the lipsticks. All of these are going to friends and family because they've all been opened and used, with the exception of this guy. This is from the Fleur de Force collection, which they, I think, are discontinuing, or it was like a one-time launch because I checked on the website, and all the colors that aren't sold out are deeply, deeply discounted, so something tells me they're on the way out, and this guy was not opened, and so this will get donated. But the rest of them, like the Vice palettes they came out with for the holidays, the limited edition Vault shades they came out in the Urban Decay Revolution lipstick line, all of these are also limited edition, and so they're starting to put them on sale, phasing them out, things like that. So I figure I might as well give them to people now while they're still able to use them, while the makeup is still in their prime and everything. Since, like I said before, I feel like a total broken record saying this, but I hate using things that you guys can't find easily. So for me, it just makes sense to get rid of this kind of stuff once it stops being readily available and using things that people can actually access. So these will find a good home. Oh, and then this was part of a 3-part Smashbox set. One was a contour that shattered on me, and the other was an eyeshadow palette, which actually I need to find because that's going to get donated as well. But this was just a lip palette that was part of that holiday set, but again, limited edition, so that is going to get given away. So that is it for my decluttering, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Like I said, it's my first time doing this, so if there's something you want to see more of, less of, other things you want to explain throughout the video, let me know. I'm happy to hear about it and see what I can do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.